Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sinners, and thank you for joining us.
Well, please, thank you for having me. It's very nice to be on with y'all.
Now, we let the fans ask questions, but we always have one important question we have to ask first.
Okay.
What is your favorite kind of ice cream?
My favorite kind of ice cream is vegan ice cream. I was a vegan for many years, and so I love a good coconut vanilla ice cream. But before I was vegan, I will say pecan praline was my favorite regular old-fashioned ice cream.
I've never heard of vegan ice cream.
Yeah, you got to try it. It's good. It's good and it's good for you. And it's for voice actors. See, dairy is not one of those things that we can do a whole lot of because it's not always the best for giving you the right sounding voice, and it's a little cold. So, ice cream is definitely a treat for anybody that is using their voice on a regular basis.
I'll have to remember that. Now, of course, everyone's going to ask, so how did you like having to do the laugh as Tidus from Final Fantasy X?
I should say, ha 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 ha. Thanks for asking. It's one of those things where when we did the session and we did that whole thing, we knew that this was a silly part. Now, obviously, as well, the game had been a big hit in Japan already, so we were doing overdubbing of all of it. I was ADRing all of my lines, so we were essentially doing what had already been done, and the laugh had been done in a framework already by the Japanese actors. So I had to kind of copy that, but also it was very much supposed to be this awkward, ridiculous laugh. And it was one of the strangest things I had done to date at that point in my career. Since then, it's been lots of other things I'm sure that would come in and come close to it. But it's still to date, I think, one of the silliest things I've ever done. And it's so funny to see the reaction that people have of it still to this day. Little tribute pages on YouTube and stuff. But I don't laugh like that for real.
We should hope not.
Yeah. Yeah. So but it was one of those things where, normally as a voice actor, you're asked to do things as natural as possible. And this was like, okay, we need you to sound really unnatural, as though you've never laughed before. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And that's what you got there. So I hope everybody likes it.
So there you guys go. Tidus has never laughed before.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you just, I guess, when you're, a famous blitzball player, although he has kind of chuckles and things in there, so I guess you could say some of that doesn't totally fill in the storyline, but it's all part of it, so he's great.
Now, you've done so many great characters. Who's been your favorite to play?
Oh boy, I always think that whenever I'm working on a particular character, whatever I'm doing, I try to make that one my favorite. So it changes. It does change every day because, again, as you said, I've got to voice so many different characters. I've been very blessed to be able to do that. And so if I'm doing Obi-Wan Kenobi, well, then he's my favorite at the time. If I'm doing Fred Flintstone, he's my favorite. If I'm doing Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, well, then I love being Ratchet. So it depends on who I am throughout the day. So I think that's kind of the most fair way. It's like when people say, "Oh, who could pick their favorite child?" That's my response.
It's a good response. Usually our voice actors just instantly have someone.
Well, good. I try to be different.
We have a question from Justale who's asking, was it fun voicing Leonardo in TMNT, the movie? And were you able to meet Nolan North?
Well, yes, Nolan's actually a good friend of mine, and we worked together in the booth doing all those lines together. In fact, all four of us, Mitchell Whitfield, who was Donatello, and Mikey Kelly, who was Michelangelo, and then Nolan North was Raphael, and I was Leonardo. We all were together in the room, and we ran through the whole script the first time, and that was really cool. And that's generally how you would work it if doing an ensemble cast, but not necessarily for film. Usually for film, you're all alone. And what happened with the movie was it got bought by the Weinstein Company before it got put out, and they decided they wanted to make some changes to the characters and the voices and things. So we went back in and actually redubbed all of our own work after it had been animated and redid it all to picture, ADR'd it a second time, and changed things up for them to match more of the mood they were going for. So it was a little strange, but the one scene, the big scene with Nolan and I, between Raph and Leo, the big fight scene, they kept the original stuff that he and I had done in the room because it was so natural. Because the two of us, so we were in this big room, and then we had these walls between us to block for sound to make sure that each mic was isolated, and we were just screaming at each other having this fight. And so it was great. But yeah, Nolan and I go way back, and he's a very, very talented voice actor and voice double for people, and he and I do a lot of similar work. But he's also just one of the nicest, goofiest guys you'll ever meet. So he's like me. He's very fortunate, knows he's very fortunate, and is very grateful and humble about the work that he does. He's a great guy.
Now, were you a fan of the Turtles before you got to do the voice?
I was. You know, they were. I will admit, I'm a little older, so they were big when I was more. I think I was just about in my 20s or close to it. So when they first came out, so I've always been a nerd that loves watching cartoons anytime. I watch them now, and thankfully I have a 10-year-old daughter that I can watch them with as an excuse. But I was a fan of them. I loved the Turtles, and I loved the actors that portrayed them. They're all good friends of mine now. You know, it's really wild being a voice actor in Hollywood to be able to go, oh yeah, Cam Clark, Leo, there he is. He's a great guy. In fact, he's got a one-man show that he's doing right now out in Hollywood, and talking about his life of being a turtle and being other characters. But I was a fan. I had action figures, and I had read the comics and all of that. A big fan, and it was very cool.
Ah, you're so lucky.
Yes, I am. I am indeed.
Now, we have a question from Retro here, and he says, hey, James, big fan of your work. I've been running. What was it like working on Foodfight?
Wow, that's a fun question. Foodfight was one of those films where I had done something for I think the writer or director previously, and he always liked my energy and wanted to put me in something. And then they created this film, and we recorded it. I don't even know how many years ago. I want to say probably 8 years ago, and then it sat on a shelf, as it happens with movies a lot, for many years. And then I guess it came out, and they changed it, this, that, and the other. And so my involvement with it was good. It was the first time we ever did motion capture. They had some great technology for it. No matter what the end product was on that film, the technology that they did to capture our voices and our movements was quite fascinating. So we would look straight into a video camera that had our lines teleprompted on it, and we would have to look straight ahead at it, and it captured every move of my mouth, nose, eyes, eyebrow, if I raised an eyebrow, all of that, it captured all of it, and then transferred that into the data for the characters. So that was really pretty cool technology that they had. But yeah, my experience was, I remember coming in just after Charlie Sheen, and he was very nice, and did that for a couple of different days of recording, and then went back in and did some pickup lines and things and various characters in it. And it was fine. It was just like any other job. But I don't know, I haven't seen the finished product. So
see, now we've got to send you a copy so you can see the wonder that is that movie.
It happens. So yeah, but thanks for the question.
Retro also asked, what's your best advice for independent voice actors?
Oh, I think that, obviously people ask all the time, and I have a little page on my website, jamesarnoldtaylor.com, where there's voice tips and things. But D. Bradley Baker, a good friend of mine who is the voice of all the clones, as well as too many characters to name, just one of the best in this business. D has a site that he created because he gets asked so often, and it's iwannabeavoiceactor.com. And you can go there and find advice and tips, as well as get Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt's book. They're a husband and wife, and of course Yuri is the voice of Ben 10 and many other characters, fantastic voice actors. They wrote a book called Voiceover Voice Actor, and you can go to voiceovervoiceactor.com and get all the information on that. But it is a tremendous resource for anybody that is looking to become a voice actor. But my personal advice is know your own voice before you do anything else, because everybody wants to do voices and it's a very individualized thing. There's really not a lot of people out in Hollywood that are doing, I mean, there's a lot of people doing cartoon work, but there's not a lot of people doing like voice doubling, like myself and Nolan North and people like Fred Tatasciore and all of us that do that. So it's a very specialized, smaller group. And I think everybody kind of goes, oh, I want to do that. But the goal, the basis of all of it is my voice, the voice you're hearing right now. Because if I don't understand how this voice works, I can't understand how all the other voices work and how I get to them and how I sustain them without hurting my voice. And that is a really important factor in it. So know your own voice, know how to do anything with it, and then let the other ones come from there. So that would be my first and foremost, as well as read out loud whenever you can. Get comic books, get Dr. Seuss books. They're fantastic. I read them out loud. Again, I have the benefit of having a 10-year-old daughter that I can use it as an excuse. This is why I'm reading Dr. Seuss, but out loud. But it's great fun. It's great practice, because anytime as a voice actor you go into a room, most of the time you do not have the script in front of you until you get right in that room. Generally speaking, if they do send you a script, they send it 24 hours in advance. So you have just that small window of time to look at the script and know it. There's no memorization really going on. And you have to be able to emote right then and there with those things and make those words come to life as though they're your own. So practice, practice, practice. Love the craft. Study the craft. Follow the actors that are doing it right now on Twitter and Facebook and all of that. Follow their social media and see what they're saying and doing, because they are the best of the best. Watch the movie I Know That Voice. It's a great movie. I was very fortunate to be one of the actors in it, but John DiMaggio, my good friend who is Bender on Futurama, created this movie with some producers and director friends of his, and they made a great window into the life of voice actors. And I would say watch that, study that. I believe it's on Netflix now too, so if you have a Netflix account, you can stream it and watch it there. But study, 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 and know your voice. Long answer, sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It's very helpful.
Good, good.
And that leads into a question: how did you stumble into voice acting?
Well, I actually did not stumble at all. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Since I was 4 years old, this is what I've wanted to do. And I plotted and planned and did my best to make it happen. I loved voices. I loved Mel Blanc, Don Messick, Dawes Butler, Paul Frees, June Foray, all of them. I loved all the voices that they did. I studied them as a kid, and I got to work with Don Messick when I was 18, 19 years old in radio, because we lived in the same town and we got to do commercials together, and I got to take him to breakfast one day and excuse me, pick his brain on things. And I very much planned from a long time out that this is what I would do, because I've just loved the craft of it. I think it's a brilliant art form that really gets overlooked, and especially by Hollywood nowadays, because it tends to be more of a like, oh, well, we'll throw celebrities in there, and it's saying nothing against the celebrities. Most of them end up doing a tremendous amount of good work in it. It's just saying that I think there's kind of a notion that, oh, you just go into a little room and you talk for a while, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. You watch someone like Jim Cummings, who took a character like Hondo on Star Wars The Clone Wars, who was supposed to be a one-time character on the show as a little cameo, and turned it into something so fantastic that they wrote other episodes around that character. That's an art form, and it's a beautiful art form to watch him or Corey Burton, Frank Welker, Jess Harnell, Maurice LaMarche, Rob Paulson, all these greats in voice work, and you sit in a room with them and you see, no, this is truly something to be practiced and loved and done. It's really a beautiful thing to do. So I've always wanted to do it, and I sought out to do it. I made a demo tape early on, sent it out to agents, and I was a producer. I knew how to write and produce comedy. I got into radio because I knew radio would be a tremendous asset for me in learning the practice of my voice. So when I was 17, I walked into the local radio station in my hometown of Santa Barbara and started sweeping up there and handing out bumper stickers at concerts, and did all of that for free. And then eventually, within a few months, I had got a job there as the assistant promotions director, and then eventually from there I started producing commercials, because I'd sneak into the recording rooms after dark and taught myself how to use all the equipment, the multi-track recorders and everything, and learned the craft of how to manipulate a microphone and headphones and my voice and all of the ins and outs of it by watching people, studying them. And then from there started putting people's demos together, my friends that were actors that had voice actor agents. And I said, here's the deal. I'll do your demo for free if you take my tape to your agent. And eventually it worked. And an agent heard my stuff and liked it. And the rest is, as we say, history.
Oh.
Yeah.
You gotta be a little sneaky, it sounds like.
So you have to be persistent, for sure, and you have to have a plan. You have to know what you want. You know, I wrote a book called JAT 365, which is James Arnold Taylor 365 Days of Positive Inspirations. And because I believe that, you know, thinking positive is a tremendous thing to do for people, and to know your goals and dreams and to have plans for them. Otherwise, they just stay dreams that float around in your head and become a someday, and they never are accomplished. So if you know what they are and you have plans to actually try to achieve them, and every day you're ticking off things off of your list to make it possible, well, that's the best way to do it. So yeah, you know, it really is in Hollywood, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, who you know sometimes, and getting in there. But it does, at the end of the day, pay to have a talent and an ability to perform. Being a voice actor especially, you can have no inhibitions. You can't be afraid to get on a microphone and go, you know, like you're getting hit or fighting or laughing awkwardly. It all is part of the whole thing. And a lot of time on camera actors that come in are very awkward in it. They don't know how to do it. And so voice acting, again, is a real craft about it. So you have to know your craft. Indeed.
So that brings a question. What is the most awkward thing, other than maybe the Final Fantasy X character, that you've had to say on mic?
Oh, my word. Gosh. There's been so many. I don't know if I can pull one out. You know, I did a show many years ago called Drawn Together, which was a very adult cartoon. Kids, don't go looking it up. And it was something I had done. I was cast for it before I knew the content. Normally I choose content that I would want, you know, my daughter to be able to see. But these guys that created the show were such great guys, and I loved what they were doing. And so it was like, okay, well, I want to be involved with this project. They were just fun, funny people, good people. And so I did this show, and I played Waldor Sockbat. Waldor Sockbat was a kind of a SpongeBob takeoff, because it was a reality show for cartoon characters, is what it was. And so we had to do and say a lot of awkward things. So I would say, if I had to answer that as a blanket statement, I would say probably every line I spoke on the series Drawn Together.
I remember you got to say some really interesting things.
Yes, yes. So there you go. That's the quick answer.
Somebody asked, can you do Obi-Wan for us, please?
Oh, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi, yes. Well, you see, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, my work as Obi-Wan started as a voice double for Ewan McGregor for the movie Revenge of the Sith, and the video games, and for the Clone Wars micro series. So they wanted me to really match his voice and tone specifically, so his Obi-Wan is up here. It's a little lighter, and it's great. It's this wonderful kind of combination of his voice and Sir Alec Guinness's voice of, these aren't the droids you're looking for, and all that. And so he gave a combination there, and then I took that and made a combination, and slowly mine morphed into the one that Dave Filoni was looking for, more so for the Clone Wars series that we all know and love now. And it became a little lower in its tone, and a little more controlled and sustained in that regard. And because he was a general, of course, and trying to be a father and brother figure to Anakin, and so Obi-Wan is right about there now. Yes.
Now, were you a fan of Star Wars before you got the part?
Oh, yes, I was. I was always a big fan. I grew up with Star Wars. It came out, the original film, A New Hope, which is episode 4, but it was the first one, and it's very confusing with the numbers. Anyways, I grew up seeing that. That came out when I was 7 years old, and it did, as it did for many people, changed my way of looking at movies and movie making, and it changed the way we played as kids. We no longer played cops and robbers or anything like that. We played Star Wars, and I was always Han Solo. As the kid, I never would have dreamed I'd be Obi-Wan Kenobi, because he was that old guy with the beard and the hood and all that fights Darth Vader and then gets wiped out. So it was one of those things I never could have imagined as a kid, but I was definitely a fan. I had all the action figures. I I played Star Wars quite often. So to be able to now be an adult and play Star Wars and be the host of the biggest Star Wars conventions and celebrations and events in the world is a great honor. I get to host Star Wars Celebration, which is coming April 16th through the 19th at the Anaheim Convention Center, and I'll be the host of the main stage there, getting to interview people like Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Ian McDermott and Anthony Daniels and such, as well as performing my one-man stage show there too, which is going to be fun. And then after that, 2 weeks later, I go out to Florida to host for my 5th year hosting Star Wars Weekends, which is a huge celebration at Disney World in Orlando, Florida, at the Hollywood Studios. Star Wars Weekends is just a fun event where we have lots of Star Wars celebrities. I get to do my stage show. We have other shows. We're going to be talking about Rebels and all these other things, and it's a great world to be in, and it's something I never could have imagined would be affected so much. There's, in fact, I have a YouTube channel that I'm sharing with my friends David Collins, who's also one of the hosts at Celebration, as well as J.C. Reifenberg, a very talented young filmmaker who made a movie called Hughes the Force, which combines John Hughes films and Star Wars way back when. He did that a few years back and asked me to be in it, and that's how we met. But now J.C. and I have partnered, and we have our own production company out in Burbank, and we're producing stuff, and we have a channel called the Comlink channel, which is a YouTube channel, and I've got a show that is starting on this Monday, A Certain Point of View, which is a Star Wars debate show, and that I will be debating top Star Wars issues with Star Wars celebrities and guests, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope people would go and subscribe to that and check us all out, because it's a fun little world, this Star Wars world I get to live and play in.
We'll definitely put a link of that in the description for the YouTube.
Oh, thank you. Very kind. Very kind.
And
thank
we'll
you.
be seeing you because we'll be at Disney for the Star Wars weekend. So we're hoping we get to meet with you, maybe take you out to lunch or something fun like that.
Now, what week will you be there?
I'm probably going to be there 3 days if I can.
Okay, and do you know which weekend though that you'll be there?
That I'm still working out with our sales manager.
All right. Well, we'll look for you then, and I hope you get to see all the fun shows and stuff.
And we've definitely got some more questions from the fans. Somebody's asking, how did you come up with the voice of Plo Koon? And I'm sorry if I got that one wrong.
No, it's okay. It's pronounced Plo Koon, and Plo Koon is the another Jedi in the world of Star Wars, and he is, of course, if you come and see, you're going to come to Star Wars Weekends. If people come and see my show, Talking to Myself, which you can see on my YouTube channel for free, it's right there. I tell the whole story of developing the voice of Plo Koon. So Plo Koon is this awesome Jedi. In fact, he is Dave Filoni, the director of Clone Wars and Rebels, favorite Jedi. So he came to me when we started shooting the show 10 years ago and said, think Gandalf. And so Gandalf was the basis of the voice. He wanted an Ian McKellen sound. So I took Ian McKellen's voice and I put that there, and I thought, all right, yes. And then we make him wise, and I give him just a little more texture, and everything he says has a bit of a song to it. It's very sing-songy. And then they take it and they process it even more through a vocal processor, Matt Wood and David Acord, who are the brilliant sound designers at Skywalker Sound, when they mixed the show. And so they created some extra little elements to Plo Koon's voice. But generally, when Plo Koon starts in the studio, he sounds somewhat like this. And as a matter of fact, I was doing Plo Koon and Obi-Wan's voices just yesterday for something that will be out soon. So that's exciting to talk about. Well,
talking about something that's going to be out soon, let's move on to the big news, the Ratchet and Clank movie.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is very exciting. You know, this has been a long time coming. Been the voice of Ratchet for, gosh, I don't know, probably 13 years now, and done, I think, 14 or 15 games that we've done as it. This is one of the best franchises in gaming history, in my opinion, because it's fun, it's funny. The characters are people you care about, or not people, sometimes creatures that you care about, robots that you care about. And it's so wonderfully written. TJ Fixman has done just a wonderful job with the games, and he wrote the script as well for the film. And I believe it's going to be very true to form to the game. So fans of the games, I'm really hoping love this, because what it is of course we have to tell the story for people that may not know it too. So there will be some kind of setting up of characters, and we're starting from the beginning with these characters in the movie, and it's supposed to come out here pretty soon. I keep getting texts and emails from Kevin Monroe, who is the director of the film, and of course Kevin directed TMNT, the film that I did for the Ninja Turtles back in '07 as well. So it's great to work with him again. And he keeps sending me little pictures of them mixing it and doing the final mastering of it all. And so I'm excited for the movie to come out. I'm excited to be able to talk about the story and storylines that are happening and for people to see it, because what a great franchise Ratchet and Clank is. And so I appreciate you asking about it.
Well, I'm a huge fan. We've had Clank on here, and we need to get both of you on together.
Yeah, okay, so let me tell you a little story about that then. So David and I, have been Ratchet and Clank for all these years, and it wasn't until, I want to say, 3 years ago that we actually met in person, and we're in the room together. We never record together because video games never record together. You're always alone. I've only recorded one video game with other cast members, and that was Batman the Brave and the Bold, and I recorded with Diedrich Bader, who is just a fantastic actor who played Batman. So David Kay and I had never met, and we finally did. And I remember they were taking pictures all over the place because it was like, this is history. And of course, the funniest thing is David is, this strapping, handsome, 6 foot tall fellow, and I'm like 5'4" and look more like Clank, and he looks more like how you would picture the hero of Ratchet to play. So I thought it was kind of fun to see that difference in size as well as to have us all together. But and since then, now we get together and see each other and talk and text each other quite often. But he is a fantastic actor, and that voice is so unique. What he does with that, you'd swear there was some type of effect they put on his voice when he does it, but it's all just David, and so it's really great. And then Armin doing such a great job in the game as well, and then Jim Ward. We have just some fantastic actors, and they will all be in the movie as well, so I'm excited about that they kept all of us in it.
I cannot wait to see the movie, and I'm going to have to bring my Ratchet statue for you to sign.
Well, sure, why not? Yeah.
So how did it feel when you guys found out you were actually going to get a movie?
It was very exciting, and of course this was, gosh, I want to say probably 2.5 years ago that all of this started. So, it's a long process making an animated film like this, especially with the CG as beautiful as it is. And the cool part about it is they are taking the same models that they have used for the games and using them in this. So it's all true to form. You're not going to go in there and see a completely different version of everything. So that's exciting. And they told us that from the beginning as well. I remember getting that call and thinking, wow, this is exciting. This is really great. And I hope they do it right. And I hope that people go out and see it, because I would love to see sequels. I'd love to see more of it. But I just think it's a fun character to do. Ratchet has got a lot of heart, and he's just a neat character. And I relate to him as well, because I never knew my father, and he doesn't know his family, and there's always that searching. And I think it's a beautiful story, as well as just fun and goofy fun and popcorn eating, explosions, action, all of that. It's kind of everything. And so I hope people would see it and appreciate it, because it's a great story, great stuff.
I've also heard there's going to be a new game. Now, I don't suppose we're going to be finding out more about the Lombaxes, are we?
Well, boy, I couldn't say if we were or not. I can say that, yeah, the game is essentially a reboot of the first game, which, interesting enough, I mentioned Mikey Kelly, who was Michelangelo in TMNT with me and who is a dear friend of mine. But Mikey was actually the voice of Ratchet in the very first Ratchet and Clank game. And as it happens, sometimes they make changes and such. And so I took over for him in all the games since. And so what we did is this game is actually a remake of that game. So it's kind of cool that my voice will now be officially on all of them. It's no offense to Mikey. He did a great job, but I tend to give him a bad time about that. He's like, yeah, we don't need to talk about that. So, but it's a little history, a little trivia for all those Ratchet fans out there. Why does he sound a little different in the first game? Well, it's because it's not me, but it will be soon enough when they put the new one out.
Yay! Everyone's asking, is the movie going to be in 3D?
I believe it is, yeah. So that should be fantastic, huh?
There you go, all you sinners. I expect you to get 3D tickets for this. I know I am.
Yeah, good.
Hopefully stealing a theater poster if I can, too.
Yeah, boy, me too. Yeah, I hope they get one of those cutouts of Ratchet. That'd be fun.
You don't have one already?
No. I don't even have the action figures. They made those great action figures. I'm like, guys, you got to send me these. So I maybe they'll hear this and then they'll feel guilty and send them to me now.
Yeah, I've always tried to find them and I've never been able to find them.
It's kind of hard to track down, isn't it? Yeah. So we'll see. But they're very cool. Very cool.
Now, Just Dale's asking, what was it like singing in Batman Brave and the Bold?
Oh, oh, thanks. Great question. Yeah, that was so fun. I mean, that show itself was just a blast to do because it kind of harkened back to the old Adam West Batman. And again, Diedrich Bader, who I'm sure folks know him if they saw him. You know, Diedrich was on Drew Carey's show for many years. He was in one of my favorite movies, Office Space, as the crazy neighbor next door there. And he's been in so many great things. And he played just a wonderful Batman. And it was so fun to do. And then when they said we were going to do a musical, we were like, yes, this is great. So they got us the music beforehand, and I rehearsed it in my home studio and practiced and practiced. And, you know, I'm not a singer by trade, so I was a little nervous because Gray Delisle, who was singing with me, is an actual, I believe she's like a Grammy-winning, you know, musician. So she knows what she's doing. And I got in there and did my best. But you can hear me throughout the whole thing in the background of all the choruses and stuff, too. And I always hear my voice, oh, there I am. But, yeah, to sing as Green Arrow and try to have this kind of innocence to it, it was fun because I have no problem singing in other people's voices, but I had to sing pretty much in my voice. And that's where it was, you know, it was almost that kind of Disney-esque parody that we were doing, and so it needed to be very sweet and lovely and all that. So it was fun. It was goofy, but it was a lot of fun.
I actually have the soundtrack to that episode. Someone sent it to me.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was pretty cool.
Do you miss doing Brave and the Bold and getting to be silly like that?
I do. I wish that show was still on. I think it was. I think we could have done several more seasons of it, quite frankly. I think that they hadn't explored all that needed to be explored in that show. So I wish they'd bring it back. But, you know, I also wish that about Young Justice, where I was the Flash, and many other shows that happened. So it does happen, and you just have to kind of roll with the punches.
I know for Young Justice, there's a lot of people that wish they'd bring it back.
Yes, I know. It is amazing if you go to a con and you sit on panels and everybody, when are they going to bring it back? And, you know, I don't know if they ever will, but it was great while it lasted. It was fun to be a part of it.
You're also going to be a voice in the new Guardians of the Galaxy cartoon, aren't you?
Yes, I am going to be several voices. I am actually the voice of Yondu, who was the character, if people know the film or the comics, the blue alien with a bit of a mohawk and a very powerful arrow that if he whistles, it goes wherever he wants and does his bidding. And it was played by Michael Rooker, who I think is just great in the film. So I'm doing a bit of Michael Rooker's voice in this. He's somewhat of a Cajun, and he's a crazy character. And then I'm also Cosmo, who did not speak in the movie, but Cosmo is Russian cosmonaut telepathic dog, yes. And so he talks telepathically and speaks like this much, yes.
So you've done DC, you've done Marvel. Which is your favorite comic?
Oh boy, don't put me on the spot like that, because they still both hire me. I'm going to have to go back to my other answer of whichever one I'm doing at the time is my favorite. And I actually do mean that in that I grew up loving all these comics. I grew up loving Spider-Man, Flash, and Green Arrow. Those were my go-tos. And to get to play, I have voiced all of them. I'm the voice of Spider-Man for the Lego stuff, and I've been the voice of him for other games. I'm Silver Surfer, Magneto, Professor X, Iceman, all these great characters from Marvel, and I love doing all of them. And then to be the Flash, who was really, as a kid, I just loved the Flash, and to voice him has been a great honor. So it's a toss-up. You know, it depends on your mood, right? It depends on the mood that you're in because they both have different styles. So if I'm in that more Dark Knight kind of mood, then DC's the favorite. And if I'm in that, you know, web-slinging, fun storylines, X-Men, I was a huge X-Men fan as a kid, Fantastic Four. I loved all of those. Then I'm going with Marvel. They both have very different feels, and they're both great in different ways. So I hope I split the hairs politically and answered the best I could.
That's fine. I'm actually with you on that. See, guys, you can be a fan of both. You don't have to fight.
That's right.
Anyway.
That's right.
We've got Just Dale asking, how was it playing Guy Gardner?
Yeah, I love Guy Gardner, and I'm a little hazy this morning, still breaking the cobwebs out of my throat, and so I've got a little Guy Gardner in there right now. So Guy Gardner was great because they just wanted me to have fun with it. Andrea Romano, who is one of the best voice directors in the world, she let me just have fun with that one, and so it was like, think Dennis Leary, and so that was kind of the direction. So so we had that kind of Dennis Leary kind of thing going on. Yeah, Batman, yeah, sure, whatever. And he was so obnoxious, and what a great haircut and all of that. So it's fun to play a character like that. It's like when I got to play the leader on Hulk and the Agents of Smash. These characters that are just so far out there, and they really have no loyalty to anybody, and they're just goofballs. Those are some of the best ones to play.
You do seem to do good with the obnoxious characters.
Wait a second. What is that? No, yeah. Well, thank you. I guess, it's funny because I get to play the hero, like Ratchet or Tidus, things like that. And so when I get to play those ones, I just have so much fun. So that's probably why.
Do you enjoy playing the villain or the hero more?
Oh, boy. I've always enjoyed playing a good hero. But the villains I've had a lot of fun with lately, getting to play more of them. So it's a toss-up. It is a toss-up. But all in all, it's fun to be a bad guy sometimes. Yeah.
So let's ask about a cartoon I think all of my fans really like, quotation marks, Johnny Test.
Yeah, Johnny Test is just one of those things that it's the cartoon. We always joke it's the cartoon that nobody thought would last more than a season, if not, a couple of episodes, because it's so out there. And here we did 6 seasons of it, and it was so much fun. Now, the rest of the cast was in Canada, and I was the only SAG actor working on the show. And so I was always in my little padded room in my studio here making the show while they were all in Canada together. Now, we did Canada together, and we did get to do a couple episodes together, which was great. But I love Johnny. And Trevor Duvall, who plays Dookie now, there's been 2 Dookies, and Louis Turillo did a fantastic job as Dookie. And then Louis left the country and was unable to provide the voice of the character anymore. And so, as it happens, they needed someone to come in and double him and all that. And so Trevor came in and just ended up doing a fantastic job. And Trevor is also on Guardians of the Galaxy. He's Rocket Raccoon now. So I was just with him yesterday. In fact, he was shooting an episode of my show, A Certain Point of View, for us, and just talented voice actor. So to work with all these wonderful people on a show that is just goofy fun, it doesn't get better than that as a voice actor. I mean, people can say what they want about, oh, he's so obnoxious or whatever, but it's like, yeah, but he's fun. He's an 11-year-old kid. I mean, come on. Who doesn't remember being a kid and being just goofy and stuff? So I love Johnny Test. Yeah,
it is a fun show.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of jokes online about how to get it canceled, but
oh, is that right? Yeah, people are like, oh, come on, we've had enough. But no, he's blah blah blah. That's what I say to all of them. Yeah, whatever. And and on Johnny, I got to be so many different characters. You can really play the guess where James is in that show if you watch it for any length of time, because I'm dark vegan. I will get you Johnny Test and Hank Anchorman and Mr. Mittens and Doc Beeble, and I even did a character that was basically Christopher Walken. He was crazy. So I've had a lot of fun on that show.
Have you ever just called someone doing a different voice just to mess with them?
People ask me to all the time. I try not to. I always feel bad. I feel like, oh, the person is. But yeah, when I was doing promos for ABC, they had me call the president of the company as Michael J. Fox and harass him. So that was fun. But every once in a while, people will get me to do it. And most of the time, it's having people asking me to leave voicemails for their kids as Obi-Wan Kenobi or Johnny Test or something. So yeah, it's good.
Now, people are asking, does being a voice actor, is that what qualifies you for a SAG card, or do you also have to do some live acting?
Oh, no, any cartoon or anything is, all of that is covered by the union, and so that is exactly right. It's the same, no matter you're on camera or not. It's all acting under SAG contracts, so, yeah.
So there you guys go. Let's see. They're asking, what has been the character that strained your voice the most?
Oh, good question. Well, I did not a cartoon, a video game, a Spider-Man video game where I wasn't the voice of Spider-Man in this one, and I was Electro, and this was years ago, and he had to scream every single line from the top of his lungs in this, kind of angry Jersey accent of yes, Spider-Man, and so it was screaming every line for a good 2.5 hours, and by the end of it I had no voice, and that was no fun. I've lost my voice only a couple of times, and usually it is from video games. Whenever you do a video game, you do it, so that can be very taxing. If it's the shouting of dialogue, people think, oh well, the yells like you're falling off a cliff or something, that doesn't strain your voice as much as actually shouting out dialogue. And so a lot of the games I don't do are some of the war ones and stuff, because they're really just hard on your throat. They're hard on your voice, and we have to protect our voices the best we can. So that, and then I think there was a character I did on Drawn Together once that had this big kind of voice, and it's almost like a bubble voice, and so that strained my voice. I think I remember almost losing my voice doing that one, but yeah, I really try to watch it the best I can on those.
You mean we're never gonna see you in Call of Duty?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's not likely to be on my list, but
I think we'd rather just have you as more Ratchet.
yeah, well, yeah, I leave those ones to people like Nolan and all those guys, because they do such a great job.
Now, Just Dale asked, Mr. Taylor, you voiced the Fallen from the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen video games. You did a fantastic job. How did you get into the part?
Well, thank you for asking. It's a great question, and it's a fun one. It's also a sad one for me. So originally what happened was I was not cast for the video games. I was actually cast for the movie, and I was the voice of the Fallen in the movie Revenge of the Fallen, and I was cast by Michael Bay himself. I actually did an audition like anybody would through their agents, and gave it my own spin on the character. And he liked it because he said, you weren't doing Darth Vader. Everybody else was essentially doing these kind of big, Darth Vader sounding voices. And what I did instead was a voice not too dissimilar to Plo Koon, but deeper and a little darker. And he had this kind of growl, humans, I will destroy you. He was angry, but he was British and lovely as well. And I remember going in, I went to Michael Bay's fantastic production facility out in Santa Monica. Walked in, and I was waiting there for him, and he shows up, and they go, here's James Arnold Taylor, and he's like, you're the guy? Because he had expected, to me be like a 60-year-old British guy. And so he went, okay, fine. We went into the studio, and he showed me, we sat in an edit bay, and we went through basically the whole film and all these characters, and we developed the voice. And then I was leaving that, and they said, okay, we want you to come back a week from now and go into the studio and record the movie. And so I went in and did, and I did that. And then I got a call from his people, and they said, well, congratulations, you're the voice of the Fallen. So I was like, wow, this is great. And then all these rumors started going about in the film, well, who's going to be the voice of the Fallen? Is it going to be Leonard Nimoy? Is it going to be Frank Welker? Is it going to be, because Frank Welker was, of course, Megatron in the cartoon, but he wasn't in the movies because Hugo Weaving did it. And so there was all these rumors, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to replace me with a celebrity. And sure enough, they did. They brought in the brilliant and wonderful and talented Tony Todd to do the voice. And Tony, who I've got to work with since, and joked with him about it, and he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's not your fault. You're great, man. So he was the voice in the movie, but I was the voice still in all the games. I thought at least that was nice that they allowed me to keep the voice in the games. So it was a great experience. It was fun getting to work with Michael Bay firsthand and to create that voice, and I'm glad that at least it lives on in the video game.
Well, if it makes you feel better, everyone likes the video game more than the movie.
Well, there you go then.
You got the better role.
Yeah. Well, good. So yeah, that's the story there.
Now, have you actually done any live action movies other than almost getting to do that?
Well, as far as yeah, I mean, I did a movie with Mark Hamill, who's a dear friend of mine, called Comic Book the Movie, which actually has a lot of voice actors in it playing themselves. I do not play myself in it. I actually play the big time movie executive that saves the day at the end, which is great. But and they named him JT, which was fun, a nice little nod to my real name. But I have done, and I've been in other little shorts and stuff. In fact, we did a film that won a bunch of film festivals called The Audition, and you can see it online. I believe it's on IMDb, and it might be on YouTube as well. Yeah, I think it is on YouTube, where I play an annoying voice actor. So I was typecast, but it's a fun short, and we won a lot of awards for it and such. But and then I made a film years ago called The Comedy Team of Pete and James, and it's not available. The full film is not available on anywhere right now, although I've threatened to put it up on YouTube or Netflix or something for many years. It's got a lot of little cameos from Jimmy Kimmel to Adam Carolla and Ryan Seacrest, and Casey Kasem even has a voiceover in it and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. It's a mockumentary, kind of in the vein of Waiting for Guffman or some of the Christopher Guest ones, A Mighty Wind or Best in Show, and it's about stand-up comedy because I used to be a stand-up comic, and so it's about my adventures with an old writing partner I had. That it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You can see, I think there's a 6-minute pilot presentation of it on my YouTube channel that you can see if you're interested. But yeah, I do some on camera, and I like it. It's always fun, but it's much longer days, and it's, you have to be very specific. So doing this stuff on the Comlink channel that we're doing on YouTube, and doing the hosting of events and doing my one-man stage show, for me, that's more so the fun I get of doing what we would call on-camera stuff. So, yeah, but I'm never opposed to it. I always like doing it.
See, now I want to see that film.
Oh, good. It. Well, yeah, we need to, yeah. So we'll put it out there. Thank you, though, for saying that.
Now, Nova asks, who is the most famous stand-up that you've met?
Oh, the most famous stand-up that I've met. My goodness. Gosh, I got to kind of rack my brain here. Well, I opened for Jerry Seinfeld many years ago, and Rodney Dangerfield. Those were pretty good. I think Seinfeld he's one of my favorites. Let's see. I didn't ever get to meet Robin Williams, but he was also one of my favorites. I've been in the same room with Steve Martin many times, and he is my absolute first top-notch hero for stand-up comedy. I've worked with many, many stand-up comics, really all beautiful, wonderful, fun, goofy people. Tom Wilson is a dear friend of mine, and I think he's one of the best of the best because he does a great show. And Tom Wilson, of course, was the actor behind the character Biff in Back to the Future, as well as many other fantastic roles like Freaks and Geeks, where he was in that, and he was great. So, gosh, I know that there's tons that that's the crazy part about being a voice actor. You literally work with everybody. And if you can play that 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon game with me and find that I'm always one away from just about everybody because of the work that we do. And that doesn't mean we always meet or that we're always in the room together, but we've all worked together on things. But yeah, I think those ones would have to do for now. I'm sure after we finish, I'll remember somebody else. But yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Now, have you done conventions and gotten to meet fans?
Oh yeah, quite often. Again, I host the events like Star Wars Weekends and Star Wars Celebration, and I go to Comic-Con and the like. Quite often, I will go to these and meet fans. Quite a bit. So it's not unlike me to be somewhere at a convention.
Well, now I've got to ask the question that everyone's probably asked you. What is the silliest thing or funniest thing that's happened to you at a convention or meeting with fans?
Oh, boy. I don't know. Most people are so nice and reserved. I guess maybe like strange body parts to sign. No. Yeah, I don't have anything like that is well, see, again, I say that and then I'm sure I'll think of something later. I'm so bad at remembering these things because I always take away the good the good, fun memories of conventions and such. I think there's certainly some heartwarming ones of meeting fans that are so excited to meet you, or children that are sick. We do a lot with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and St. Jude's Children's Hospital, which I got to go and perform and do my show there just a few months back. So those are some of the most heartwarming ones, the stories that you get to see, and you get to see how your work affects people in a positive way. But as far as conventions, you just, yeah, you do. You get some fun people in costumes and asking you to sign things that are unusual. So I think that's probably the biggest. But no one particular thing jumps out. I'm sorry I don't have a more creative answer for you.
It's okay. We'll just have to bring you back to when you do have one.
Okay.
See, we got to start bringing you to some conventions here in Florida, because that's when they get really weird and wild.
Is that right? Is that right? Okay. All right. Well, so we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, our time is coming to an end, but would you mind doing a shout-out for us?
Well, certainly. Now give me exactly what you want me to say then. Who do you want me to mention? What do you want me to mention? And how should I say it?
I would love it as if you do it as Ratchet, saying, "I'm Ratchet and I'm a sinner."
Oh boy. Okay. All right. I got it. You all set? Hey, everybody. It's Ratchet. I don't know where Clank is, but I sure am a sinner.
Oh, thank you. Now I've got one from Ratchet and Clank.
Okay, good. Now, does he say I'm Clank and I'm a sinner?
Yes, and he even does a little laugh.
Okay, well then I can give you a response too. Way to go, Clank. I always knew you were a sinner.
That's great. We really need to get you two together when it's closer to the movie release.
Absolutely. We should work on that. That'd be fun. I'm sure that David and I could find the time for that.
And I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I know the fans are really happy you've answered their questions, and they love you.
Oh, well, thank you. My love to all my fans as well, and I really appreciate the time. This is really fun.
And I hope you have a good day, and I hope you start feeling better.
Oh, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.